Extracts from Treachery on the Fells by James Statter. List of characters. Alice Jenkins. Sitting in the kitchen of Church Farm, Alice's mind was in turmoil, having inherited it and all the problems it had brought her. Staring at the naked bulb hanging from the ceiling was a reminder there was no electricity. The oil lamp had to be made ready before she left, as it would be dark when she returns. The dampness on the walls was the result of a hole in the roof getting larger. Her bare legs felt the draught from the back door as if it was left ajar. The rundown farm was not her only problem. Joe Turner, the undertaker's son. Joe Turner, the sex pest, would be her next problem when he would arrive shortly to drive her to Ambleside Church. On more than one occasion, she'd had to defend herself from his groping attention. Having little money to pay for the funeral of her mother only added to her woes. She did explain to Joe Turner when they were making the necessary funeral arrangements it may take a little longer to settle the invoice. This was a signal for Joe Turner to put an arm around Alice's shoulder. "Don't you worry about the payments, Alice." His arm was extricated and thrust away, sending a message. "So we can come to some arrangements about that, Alice." Was well-rehearsed words he'd used before on vulnerable widows. Elliot Woods. Alice's sworn enemy, a petty crook, the good-for-nothing son of Ned Woods, the original owner of Church Farm, who had also passed away some time before Esther Jenkins. Elliot Woods was convinced he should have been given the farm, which would help him with his financial situation. His father would have none of it. He had made it quite clear to his work-shy son there was no way he would pass on the farm to him because of the way he treated him when the farm became difficult to run. Elliot Woods flew in a rage one day on returning home from his latest stint in Carlisle prison after being convicted of burglary charges. His father had taken in a lodger. Esther Jenkins was sitting comfortably in a chair. A young girl sat at her feet. She had confided in Ned over a cup of tea at the Ambleside cattle market how she had left her husband after a long period of physical and mental abuse. He too had been through awkward times in his marriage. His wife had left him when his farm was going through a financial crisis. Ned watched the girl sitting next to Esther and reached out a hand to her. He too had a son, but he was one big heartache for his father. His wife would have nothing to do with her troubled son and left him with Ned. "I don't want him hanging about my feet," was her last word to her husband as she banged the back door shut. Elliot blamed his father for letting the farm go to ruin. The cattle had long been sold. No crops had been harvested for many a year. It was the reason his mother, who he doted on, had left the farm. No sooner had he entered the farm when he turned on his father. "What's this, old man? You gone soft in your old age?" Then he stood, facing menacingly at young Alice. "And a brat, too!" There were strong, angry words exchanged between son and father before Elliot made a noisy, quick exit from the farm. Treachery on the Fells is now available on amazon.co.uk/books.